Okay, it is 5:30 p.m. This is September the 8th, 2022, 5:30, the Trinidad, this is the work session of the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. Everyone was provided with an agenda electronically last week. At your seating places, I provided you with some more information this evening that is sort of germane to some of the topics that we'll be covering this evening. So just in order to provide an additional amount of information. Number one on the agenda this evening is a presentation or informational to be provided by Los Angeles County Assessor Jody Amato. We've had a couple of conversations in the past. She was gracious enough to be here this evening. She's going to provide us with her information, and you have, I'm sure, many questions. So without any further delay, Assessor Amato is in the audience. Thanks for being here, Jody.
You're welcome. How is everybody this evening?
Glad you're here.
Thank you. Most everybody knows me. I am Jody Amato. I am the Los Angeles County Assessor. I have been the assessor for 8 years. I am going to be re-elected this November, so I'll be the assessor for another 4. I have actually been in the assessor's office for 20 years, so I bring a lot of knowledge and experience to my role. So as Chairman Grego mentioned, we've had some meetings, and I guess I'm here to answer any questions you have and explain that there are some House bills and Senate bills that were passed that are going to affect the TIF and the increment in the preceding years.
Good or bad?
Negatively. I wish, as Commissioner Lopez will tell you, usually when I'm around, it's never good news, is it?
Not during the week.
One of these days I'm going to have good news. So the TIF was created in 2019?
Well, the TIF actually...
the TIF district.
The district was actually 2015.
2015.
December 1st, 2015 is when it was approved and adopted.
And adopted. So from that starting date on, I have to track it and maintain it for 25 years. And unless something changes with the districts, the boundaries, things of that nature. We are very unique here in Trinidad and Los Angeles County because our TIF district happens to be one of the largest in the state of Colorado. Most TIF districts are a few parcels or blocks in certain areas. Ours happens to cover the entirety of the city limits of Trinidad, Colorado. So we're unique in that respect. Some people say we're pioneers. I'll go with that. So our TIF district has about 1,500 parcels in it. Revenue is derived from those 1,500 parcels, more or less. So what is encompassed, or what properties go into your TIF increment and your URA are commercial, industrial, vacant land, and personal property. Those are the parcels that we apply the increment to. So residential land and residential property are not included in the TIF increment. And that was established, I believe, back in December.
Now, personal property, wouldn't that be considered personal property?
Personal property for commercial businesses is included. So that's where you're going to see your first decrease in TIF revenue. The governor back in 2020 passed a law and increased the exemption for all commercial and industrial personal property from $7,900 to $50,000. So that took my office, the accounts that I have to tax and track, from about 312 accounts down to 77 taxable accounts. So you will see a decrease in your TIF revenue because those accounts are no longer taxable. So they will no longer be paying taxes. Therefore, there will not be an increment applied to those accounts.
And that was effective when?
That was 2021. So you will see it in the revenue that's being collected as we speak.
For 2022.
For 2022 currently.
We are experiencing that.
So the next issue that I've been dealing with is House Bill 221416. That will be in effect for the years of 2023 and 2023 only. The governor signed that House bill at the end of July. All residents will see a $15,000 actual value adjustment off the top of assessments. Commercial businesses will see a $30,000 reduction in a value reduction. Mixed use properties, which is mainly our commercial and Main Street area where we have commercial on the bottom, residential on the top, those are considered mixed use. They will see a $45,000 total reduction in value.
Including my place?
Including your place, because it is a mixed use. You have commercial real space on the bottom and you have an apartment above. So you will see a total of a $45,000 actual value reduction.
So the government doesn't like him.
So the reduction that number is to the assessed valuation?
That's off the top of the actual value. So when we take our assessment rates, which the governor has also reduced in the upcoming years, commercial properties were assessed at 29%, they're going to see a 26.4% reduction. So you will see when assessment rates go down, revenue goes down because the assessment rates derive your tax valuation. So you're going to see increment loss to the TIF because of that value that I have to strike off the rolls for the year 2023. My personal opinion, and this is my personal opinion as the assessor, this is a to test the waters type bill. I have a hard time believing that a legislature would pass this extensive bill, changing the way that all 64 counties do their jobs in the assessor's office, for it to be a one-year issue. I think we're going to see legislation coming this next session that will either continue this or make some other adjustment to the way we value. But it is going to be a detrimental blow to some of my districts, and the TIF district being one, because you don't have a mill levy, you have an increment. Next year is a reevaluation year, but we haven't seen a lot of commercial businesses selling. At my residential market, hot as flapjacks. I mean, it's crazy. I can tell you this is the highest market I've seen in the 20 years in the assessor's office, and it's been amazing.
Mr. Amato, how is the Assessors Association opposing this legislation, or where do they stand with that?
We did oppose this legislation. Unfortunately, we did get to come to the table. We were told that we are valuation specialists, which we are, but this was, they appreciated our input, but because of the value increases in your Denver Metro, your I-25 corridor and your metro areas, this will be in my personal opinion, a re-election tool. But for rural Colorado, this is going to have a negative impact on rural Colorado. So this will benefit approximately 8 metro counties. The rural counties that are left out of the 64, we are trying to see where we're going to land, which it's going to be interesting. Because the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority does encompass the entirety of the city limits of Trinidad. And granted, you just get vacant land value, commercial, industrial, personal property, but those assessment rates going from 29 to 26.4, you are going to see a decline.
And one other question, Mrs. Amato, do we see a possible decrease in Gallagher, or with Gallagher due to, with the RAR residential assessment rates?
Well, we voted 2 years ago to de-Gallagher.
Right.
So essentially what we're doing now with the assessment rate adjustments is what Gallagher intended in 1982 when they put it in the Colorado Constitution. Now all they've done is they've given a group of legislatures the right to set assessment rates where they feel it needs to be, instead of letting the commercial and industrial and residential ratio work itself out, which that's how we used to determine residential rates. But when we voted 2 years ago to de-Gallagher the state, essentially it opened up Pandora's box, and we are letting a group of gentlemen and ladies under the Gold Dome essentially dictate to local governments their funding mechanism. And I am not the judge or jury whether that's right or wrong, but that is where we are at.
So if this issue comes before commissioners at the county and city administrators too, and as a city manager, our funding mechanisms will be changing and probably in a negative way in the future. So
Unfortunately.
we'll have to find an offset. So be prepared. I don't know, I don't want to speak on behalf of the Board of County Commissioners, but possible cut in services of some sorts down the road.
And what I see happening, and whether it can function or whether it is passable, I think we're going to see a lot of our districts, our entities that rely on tax revenue, going to the ballot to try and increase their mill levies. Because according to Tabor, that is how you have to increase your mill levies. And granted, the TIF does not abide, you don't have a mill levy, you run off an increment. You have seen a lot of construction downtown. We have a whole new apartment complex on Elm, the art space. Those are wonderful, and they were multi-million-dollar structures and undertakings. They do not pay property taxes. So
Exactly.
therefore, you do not get any increment because they are 1% owned by the housing authority. So by law, they are tax exempt.
So, I mean, out of the 1,500 parcels, we're precluded in any of those parcels from having any TIF on residential properties.
Correct, and that's due in the way your URA was set up.
Which kind of, to my quick way of thinking, goes against what TURA wants to try and do. Because without being able to get any of those TIF revenues, if we're only able to get TIF based on commercial properties, which are multi-purposes commercial
Right.
properties as well, all kind of falls under the same tent. It really stops us from really having any effect on trying to create affordable housing, trying to work on housing in blighted areas, parcels that are for residential that actually would be able to be put back in an inventory at the high end or the low end. We can't really access the bond market, which is one of the tools we have in our toolkit.
Correct?
We're really hindered from actually accomplishing very much at all.
And that is something you as the board will have to address. I as the assessor
No,
have...
I
Yes.
understand. I say that for
I
everybody here and
understand.
anybody listening there.
And
It really cripples our ability to have any marginal impact in any of the needs in our region. And so without us actually opening up that can that says we need to actually revisit the 2015 and see if there's a way to open that up to residential properties. And again, just the 1,500 or the blighted ones or the ones that actually would fall within our ability to actually cause an effect.
Commissioner,
Yeah.
you're.
I'm asking the question. I'm asking the question.
Yeah, and I understand.
No, I'm asking, am I right in my thinking on that? Because this is
That
kind of
is
new
something
information.
you as the board would have to
Right,
look
yeah,
at.
and I've got the response for that.
Okay,
Okay. That was structured by, when the Urban Renewal Authority was revitalized, that is by the way that the governing authority, the city council, is how they structured it. This was not meant to be to go out and get TIF from the residential areas. It's specific in there, and it says which buildings would be. The county commissioners in the ensuing year also, they expressed and their desires, and the desire was not to have anything but a certain area of the city paying the TIF. So that was structured a long time ago. I don't believe there's a revisit to it. That would be requiring to go to the city council. That would be a rewrite of the plan. The city council would have to have an approval of that, because in the revitalization and the ordinances that were passed, it actually carves out the residential areas.
Well, and I appreciate that. My question was more towards you than to anybody on the board, including the chair, because you're here for this one moment
right.
in time to be able to, and me to be able to
And you're welcome.
share what my thinking is, and you be able, in your role, to be able to
And
qualify that.
I have to mirror what Chairman Grego said. That's what the intent of the city was. And I don't know the specifics, and you would have to seek legal advice
That's-
as far as redistricting. What I can tell you is your district was developed before the law changed. That's why it was done at the end of 2015,
I know.
because TURA law did change, DBA law changed. And if you redo your plan per se,
Well, you open up 1348, I understand.
yes, you do.
So, another question I have, Chairman. Mr. Amato, so all the other buildings in the community that are being revitalized, when they are a private-public partnership, such as possibly the county or city, such as the Fox Theaters, put that one for example, does that become tax exempt as well?
That is tax exempt.
So we won't
because
see any TIF from
You
that?
will not see any TIF increment from that. Anything that is held in a state, city, county titled entity is tax exempt per state statute.
Which really limits our ability to do anything. That really
True.
limits, if somebody says, no, this is a sacred cow, you can't open that up because you may have to go to the thing, and you start looking at the realities of this, and be able to say that most of the things, when that was done in 2015, cannabis certainly wasn't in place. We had no idea that the private market would come in here and rehabilitate most of our buildings. We had no idea that Create Space would come in there and take a large section of our downtown and take that off the market. So it really ends up being that we're, in quick order, we should be able to go through and identify the only properties that fit that criteria and really limit our mission to what can we do with those properties.
Your thinking is
Or make
correct.
some changes.
Well, again, if there's a sacred cow that you can't make those changes, then it's really simple for us with the limited number, with those categories, and the limited number of properties that actually fall in the public preview, the public market and investor area, and not a government or nonprofit, non-taxable entity. Our work gets really darn easy. Because there's very little that we can do.
And the other caveat to that is most of our vacant land that pays in or should be paying in is sitting out in Cougar Canyon, Stone Ridge. And the majority of those vacant lots do not pay taxes. They have not paid taxes for years.
Is that an opportunity for us with regards to TIP? Where are our opportunities?
That's a
then?
question you have to,
With the assessor.
all I do is I track it. I track it
But
and apply a TIF.
are those properties viable for TIF?
They're already within the TIF district. But the thing is, if a taxpayer does not pay their taxes, you get no TIF increment. And there is no way you can make taxpayers pay their taxes.
And it wouldn't be for residential, just the commercial. So say the hotel that was out there.
Well, the vacant lots out there
And the
is
vacant
vacant
lots.
land.
Well, vacant land is there, but when they become residential land,
Then they come off.
then they come off there.
Yes.
I'm tracking with you.
Yes.
And so it seems though that the only way that TURA, and again, I'm not asking you, other than with what you're able to say as the assessor, I understand your role here. But it seems to me then, the properties that are out there, the hotel, any commercial property, and vacant land, those, if some people aren't paying taxes, TURA's really only tool, since we can't really help those folks through the bond market or through private investors, one of our only tools is condemnation then, and maybe creating a land bank to pull those things back in.
And that depends on legally what you can or cannot do as TURA.
Got it.
In Cougar Canyon, who does own it?
Most of them are owned by private developers. And I can tell you as the county, we took steps at the beginning of this year and we picked 10 lots. We are going through trying to obtain county-held certificates, which means that the county owns them. We have the right as Los Animas County to auction them. The first 10 we did, the gentleman that owns them redeemed all of them. So he is current in his taxes and is paying his taxes. We are in the process of doing the next set of 10 between the treasurer in my office and our county administrator. We are pulling all that together. So we have to notify the owners, and most of them are out-of-state owners, they're developers, and we'll see if they come and redeem them. Because if they do not redeem them, simplification of how the process works.
What are they redeeming? I'm sorry, I missed one of those.
Vacant
Tax
lots.
certificates.
Okay.
Vacant lots.
Okay. So they
Because
haven't paid-
They have not paid their taxes for numerous years.
And so
We
you're
have,
calling.
we have lots that are well over $1 million in back taxes.
Right.
Yeah, 12 million total at this time with penalties and back taxes.
And then you're gonna put those up for auction once you do.
Once the county treasurer obtains county-held certificates, she has the authority by Colorado state statute to auction those off at a public auction.
And does the back
The back taxes No.
Was the back TIF that would have been available since they were
No.
vacant lot for that period of time?
That's
No.
gone.
The,
So the commissioners will have the opportunity at that time, through the OBCC, to vacate any back taxes on those
And
as
I'm
well.
not against that.
The other main issue is the Cougar Canyon, and we're diving way off the ledge here, but is the Metro District that needs to be reestablished and move forward, either abolished or reestablished, and that's through City Council.
yes.
And what was your timeline on that?
We're hoping to hopefully have these next 10, notifying them within the next 3 months. We did the first 10 the beginning of the year. It's a process.
And then
It's a
what's
6
your legal requirement after they're notified?
I'm not sure how long the treasurer has to wait. I think it's 30 to 90 days
Okay.
to allow them time to come in and redeem before we actually take,
6 months.
Action.
it's 6 months?
6 months.
Is it 6 months?
And they either redeem or the county takes ownership.
I appreciate the
We're
county
looking at
taking those
about
actions, by the
8
way.
months before that might.
Right. And as the assessor, I would, because I live in Cougar Canyon hell, pardon my French. I mean, I've been doing this and dealing with Cougar Canyon since it was first platted and the inception of it. So as the assessor, I would like to see those parcels being productive and paying into our local tax entities and see development out there. So between myself, our treasurer, county commissioners, some attorneys, this was an option that we found to hopefully get the ball rolling per se.
And hypothetically, if TURA was able to open up the sacred cow of not being able to do some of these things, and in that area, move the residential properties that are there into TIF, we could actually go into the investor market, the bond market, and do some things to actually have an effect on the development out there, which right now we're unable to do. We're impotent in doing anything on Cougar Canyon.
Is Cougar Canyon in the Honey District?
It's in the Honey School District.
This is terrible.
Yes.
Can we purchase?
And we don't have any money.
So how much are we gonna lose for urban renewal? Are we looking at decline so far, Chairman? What do we look at?
We
20,000 for the year?
Right now, we look at collecting 66% of what we saw come in in the prior year. So I'm looking at it right now, and you'll look at it, the financial report, which was already provided to everybody. We worked just about $40,000 last year. We're gonna be 33% down. We may break $26,000 this year. And that will be less next year.
That will be
Hard
less.
to know exactly what it is, but
And we do not know because I have a reevaluation next year, so I do not know what my values or those numbers are till May of next year. But I am here to tell you, with the decrease in the valuation adjustment off the top and the decrease in mill levies, or assessment rates, you are going to see a significant decrease in your TIF collection.
do you by chance have a wild ballpark
I
estimate of what that could be?
Give us a guess.
guess I venture to say you're going to probably lose 25%.
Yeah.
Ouch.
Are there, can I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Are there any projects in the works right now? I know you are unlimited funds, but I was wondering if there was any project that had been identified.
Not yet. In fact, one of the things we're going to be addressing in the rest of the agenda this evening, we're trying to look at that. But these are all
Working gears.
these are all things that, I mean, it's, you know, private investors got to be a part of it all.
Correct.
And, you know, in a day and age where things are, you know, these are semi-turbulent times.
They're
And
very.
so it's a matter of the entertaining and getting successful response from private investors, property owners, to be able to take it there.
I understand. That leads me to my next question. We've had a conversation about the La Puerta Bid District.
Yes.
That is where the hotel is being built. I am going to need a copy of that contract that was signed.
I think.
Oh, I did send that.
Yes.
I have sent that off to Department of Taxation. They are kind of the guiding source for all assessors. Once again, we are pioneering. Nobody has seen that happen yet. So I am waiting to hear how we are going to handle that, because as the assessor, I can track value. I can track actual assessed and your tax. We are probably going to have to loop the treasurer in order to see what increment you have to, as the URA, give back to the BID.
Right.
And the BID is in a business incentive district.
So the La Puerta won't be paying full taxes and property taxes whatsoever.
Well, La Puerta will be paying their taxes, but your tip increment will be going back to them.
Right.
So essentially, they
got a
will be,
refund.
they're going to be paying their 100% taxes and getting it back
So,
On the increment.
on the
On the
increment.
increment.
Because the way the increment works, if my tax bill is $100 and the increment is 10%, that 10% is what, I pay my full $100 tax bill, but 10% goes to the TIF. So essentially with the BID district, the URA, you will collect, you're gonna be a pass-through.
Yes.
The treasurer's going to collect it, she'll send it to you, and you'll write a check back to the BID.
out of respect for the city manager, I only have one more question, because I know he hits a lot of late meetings. The 1,500 parcels that we have, exclude the ones that we can't do anything with. That brings us down to a certain finite number that we can do. Do you have that number? Are those properties, can we have those properties identified in those categories and have it, because that could give us a roadmap of future projects.
And I'm not sure if maybe I'm misunderstanding the question, because there might be commercial and industrial properties out there that don't want or don't need the URA's help because they don't feel they're blighted, yet they are included in the TIF district. So therefore, a portion of their tax revenue is going to fund the TIF. So I can give you.
But again, that's a personal choice of those property owners. But if they categorically fit within our 5 categories or 4 categories in those 1,500 parcels, then we have an opportunity to at least do outreach to everyone and have conversations.
A list of, essentially what's on there is all vacant land, commercial and industrial, and personal property. But personal property is the equipment with inside a business. So, and I don't think you can help businesses purchase equipment.
Well, and with that 20 House Bill, whatever, where you're taking off 15K, 30K,
Yes.
45K, you've already pretty much removed
Correct.
that.
So the list that I have provided, you can reach out to anybody on that list,
But the ones that fall within the category.
but I don't know what your categories are.
Well, commercial, mixed use.
That's everybody on that list already.
Okay.
That is a complete list of all vacant land, commercial, industrial
I didn't
property.
understand you correctly. Thank you so much.
Yes, so you have that
My
list,
last
so you're
question.
welcome
Thank
to reach out.
Yes, 1,543 on the list
Yes.
is the exact number.
That's a lot.
And that includes, there's a number, if you look at it, that it does identify those vacant
It's-
land parcels
yes.
in Cougar Canyon.
Yes, it does.
You know, you send it to us. And I think one of the conversations we had in the past, and I've actually had that as well with the Los Angeles County Treasurer, Donna Leonetti. And in front of you tonight, I provided you with more additional information. And it's actually not additional, I think I provided that in the past, but it's a reiteration of what I provided in the past. And the company that they use, I can't remember the name of the technologies, they are not able to actually carve out and give exact information on what comes from, software.
Tyler?
Tyler
Yes.
Technologies,
Yeah,
that's
so
who
they're not
does our
able to
software.
actually, when they responded, they're not able to provide something that goes to specific properties. They take the entire amount of TIF that's collected, use the formulas that are quite extensive, ultimately giving us a percentage
Correct.
of what it is all tax collected. I had asked if there was a possibility of getting a schedule, and the response from Tyler Technologies was, all we can give you is the total number, all the algorithms with the ultimate number of
Correct.
1.04% is
Right.
what you're getting compared to 1.89 last year.
Yes, and the reason being is because your TIF district is so large, it's hard to do that mathematical equation and all those algorithms. It's easier for like Denver and Jeffco and those areas because they have 4 parcels on a block that they're looking to develop.
They have
Things that-
areas.
Yes, whereas we have the entire city limits.
Yeah.
But there might be software, Chairman, that could be added to Tyler and possibly, no?
No.
Well, we do have the opportunity to create smaller projects. Areas, exactly. You are, rather, urban renewal areas.
Well, you have to do that through the commissioners and city council.
Well,
And
but
then
if
that
it's the
opens
best-
you up to the new law.
Well, then you'd be under
Which-
1348, and you start.
Which
I
I
negotiate the whole.
Yeah, I
thing.
appreciate 1348 personally.
It
but-
starts all at the beginning.
So, Mr. Mott, last question. Do you have any good news for us?
Well, we've had rain.
It's cool nights. The nights are
The
cool.
fall is here. Cattle market's looking up, so I'm a happy camper. I think we're in the middle of football season and homecoming season, and I think all of our kids are happy, healthy, and enjoying being back in school and sports. We've had a wonderful fair season. I can tell you valuation in our county did go up, but it was due to oil and gas and some state assessed properties, which have nothing to do with urban renewal, unfortunately.
Okay.
Please, other than that, I will be your assessor for the next 4 years, and if you have questions, I am open to phone call, come in and see me. I tell people I'm the easiest person to find. When you get off the elevator on the second floor, you'll see my smiling face.
Thank you, Renee.
You're welcome.
Jody,
And
thank you for being
You're very welcome.
Appreciate it.
Any other questions? None?
Thank you.
You all have a wonderful evening.
Yourself as well.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Nice to meet you.
Okay, before we proceed on, I will call up the city manager, but I'm going to remind everybody, because in my narrative that I provided, I did indicate in my last paragraph, I need everybody we need to do this methodically as we're asking questions, as we're addressing. A lot of this, in this recording, it's a little hard to jot down, tape, record what's going on as far as notes, so I need everybody to do it in a methodical manner so that we can, again, I have to bring back and record a lot of this and take notes. It's easier if we go in a methodical way rather than at random. Item number 2 this evening, City Manager, City of Trinidad, Mr. Steve Ruger.
Good evening, Chair and Commissioners. It's nice to be in front of you tonight and be part of your meeting. So I'm on week 3 of the job, and it's the proverbial drinking from a fire hose, but it's all good stuff. I'm really excited for Trinidad, and I'm really excited for what's happening here. And you guys are not wrong. There is a lot of public-private partnerships going on, nonprofit development, that really traditionally would fall under an urban renewal authority, but we just have some different investors coming to the city right now. All good for Trinidad when you accumulate it as a whole. But I'm excited to hear your conversations. I can be your liaison with the city council as well, and I think it would be a good idea for you all to do an update to the council and bring some of the concerns that you're talking about tonight to them. It is correct that in 2015, they by policy set that decision not to have residential included in the TIF. And probably we can go back to the meeting minutes and understand what the logic was there and their decision making. And I can certainly get that for you if you'd like. But I think where we're at, some bad news from the assessor, certainly. But I really think that you all are an important board to have. I'm glad we have an urban renewal authority. I think they work very well. You guys can do some things that the city can't, which is great. And we're here to help you. And I think the council is very dedicated to your mission. I'm going to be bringing a strategic plan to the city very soon. And I really want the council and the community to get together and look at what our 5-year goals are. I think we have a lot of really good ideas right now and a lot of momentum going on. And I want to kind of rein that in and make sure that we're all strategically moving forward in the same direction with the same goals and the same mission. And I would see you all being an important part of that process as well as our urban renewal leg. But I'm really just here to introduce myself to you all. I'm looking forward to getting to know each and every one of you. I'll be around and in and out of your meetings. Urban renewal is a passion of mine. Just to give you a little bit of my background, for those of you who don't know, I started out in local government at the ripe old age of 23, and I've never looked back. So I purposefully chose city management as my career choice.
Nice.
Yeah, and I would never see myself working in anything but local government. It's my passion. It's the way that we can be most connected with residents of this country and really have the most impact in their lives. When you boil it down, turmoil, good things, bad things that happen, on Cap Hill, good things, bad things that happen in Washington. They're very important issues, but we're the ones that are impacting people's day-to-day lives and providing a quality of life to them that should get better, and that we should strive to do the best we can. And that's why I love local government. So I have worked exclusively in local governments my entire career. I started out working in a finance department in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, and worked there for several years, and then ultimately got promoted to be their city clerk. For a couple of years, I moved up to Aurora and was their city clerk, and worked as a member of the city manager's team for all of their trials and tribulations. It was a really good experience. And then after I was doing that for a little while, Rio Rancho called me and asked me if I would come back as their deputy city manager. So Rio Rancho, for those of you who don't know, is a city of about 104,000 people. It's 20% developed, and it was incorporated in 1981. So they have different issues than Trinidad and not much redevelopment going on. So I'm really excited to be involved in a community where we can preserve our historic structures and make them better and make them grow and make them really be a part of, I think, everyone's mission to make this a destination for people to come for outdoor resources. But I don't want to just focus on that. I want us to also be mindful that we have such a rich history here, and we have so many gorgeous buildings, and we have so many wonderful local businesses, and we have so many opportunities. And I think cohesively, we want to gel as a community that can provide a lot of things to our residents and our visitors. And I'm here to be part of that. And I'm a Colorado native, so it's nice to be back in my home state. And I'm looking forward to working with you. So I'll answer any questions you have, but keep in mind I've only been on the job for 3 weeks, so I'll answer them to my best of ability. I may not have all the answers memorized quite yet.
Thank you. Commissioner Hall.
I'm good. Good. Welcome. I'm so glad you're here.
Thank you, sir.
I don't have anything, thank you.
Commissioner Lopez.
Thank you, Mr. Ruger. Any relation to the gun company?
Yes.
No, I do get that switch. Unfortunately, no, which is why I have to work in local government.
Question I do have, with your experience in Rio Rancho and in city municipalities, do you have any experience with urban renewals?
No, I've never worked directly with an urban renewal, but I'm very well versed in my public administration training and working on redevelopment projects in general. So I'm excited to work with you, learn more about what you do. Very familiar with alternative financing structures. And one thing I'm really looking forward to doing is, as a whole, looking into revenue diversification for the city. So you're not alone in wanting more money. And I think someone brought up cannabis earlier. I don't think the city can bank on that long term as a guarantee. We don't know what's going to happen to that industry. And so I really want to look at ways we can boost our coffers in general. But working with you all is something I'm really excited for, and I'm excited to get to know you and understand what your mission, what your role is better.
Thank you.
Commissioner Young.
Welcome.
Thank you.
It'll be nice to get to know you. The one thing I always thought it was very important for a city manager to do, and you can just take this as just off the wall,
Sure.
is one time we had a city manager, and we own a business, that came down and introduced himself. And I was never so impressed in my life.
Yeah.
Because most city managers don't even know what the businesses are in Trinidad.
Absolutely. That is a goal of mine, to get out in the business community, meet people. I've met many, many business owners in the 3 weeks I've been here.
Yeah, I know you're just.
And I'm looking forward to getting to know as many as possible. So I will take time to do that effort as well.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bigley.
Yes, welcome.
Thank you.
We're glad to meet you. We talked about it the last meeting. We're wondering who's going to be the guy. But and also, you said you started when you were 23, and now that you're 25, is this quite a bit on your plate here, or no?
Exactly.
Welcome. Thank you.
20 years of local government experience. It goes by quickly.
Yes.
Thanks. Welcome.
A lot.
Appreciate you.
Thank you, Chair.
And
Appreciate
thank you
guys.
for coming.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Absolutely.
Item number 3 this evening is discussion for Executive Director or Administrative Assistant. And as you all recall, at the last meeting, well, in all meetings past, we've had an item on the agenda that calls for items for future discussion. And at the August meeting, Commissioner Howlett provided a pretty extensive list of things that he felt appropriate that we should be placing on the agenda for discussion and consideration. So with that, Commissioner Howlett and I met on August the 25th, was it?
I think so. It was a
August the
great
25th. And we discussed various topics on that list, for which 3 topics were prioritized to bring to the meeting today. Those items on the agenda are administrative assistance, contact letters to property owners, and legal counsel. So the first one that we will give some discussion to is what thoughts are as far as the executive director and/or administrative assistant. I will start with you, Commissioner Howlett, because you were the author of the list. So, in mirror some of our conversation.
I appreciate it. It was a great visit, and I appreciate you taking the time. That was, because we had an opportunity, scheduled out about a little over an hour. Really was able to drill down. It was awesome. This is also timely. We're going into budget in September. When you're starting to look at things, and you look at first budget item is revenue, and you start looking at the next kind of side of that sheet is expenses. It does not look like a executive director, unless we can get the city manager to maybe carve out some time, which I'll just float out there. But it doesn't look like that's there, and I actually believe the chair could use some assistance.
Yes.
Even with regards to just trying to float everything that we're doing right here and corral these cats, And so I think it's an opportunity for us to, when we go into the budget session and we start talking about budget and we look at where the dollars are and where they're not, I think it'd be a good idea for us to carve out some dollars to bring in an executive assistant, maybe not an executive director, because we still have a lot of work, just groundwork to do. In order to give the chairman some assistance, in order to allow him to actually focus on some of the other core strategic things that I think he can do, and he's certainly most capable of doing. And so that's why that was that item on there. We're going to budget. We need some help. We don't know what we don't know, but we do know that we could use some help. And so that's why that was a top priority, at least in my mind.
Thank you.
Thank
Mr.
you.
Cochran.
Yeah, since we don't have the budget, and we need help with, I'm guessing it's administrative, mainly help, paperwork, emails, typing up information, agendas, that kind of stuff to pull a load from you, right?
Well,
Take the load off of you.
not exactly. The more of a need is really toward what that work that an executive director does. And an executive director is actually, and actually I provided you at your seat again tonight, and it's a copy in the information that I provided in the not too recent past was a copy of the current edition of what the Colorado revised statutes are related to, and you're going to see highlight on the page. And there it does tell you that you don't have to have an executive director, but as I read from it, it says an authority shall select from its members a vice chairman, and it may employ a secretary who shall be executive director. Technical experts and other such officers and agents and employees, permanent and temporary, it may require and shall determine their qualifications, duties, and compensations. So, in that would be a part of the process. But while our job is to come in here and do what we're doing, but there are things on daily tasks which would be partially, board members and an executive director. I don't want to use the overused cliche, but I'll use it. It's called the boots on the ground kind of a deal. And it's one of those where they are actually out there. Those contacts are being made. A lot of things, there are things that an executive director has more time to do than individual board members. So that's where it would be. The administrative part, I put it together, but that part, fortunately for me, is being handled by Brittany Flores, who works downstairs in the.
It's great, by the way.
She got a lot of jobs. Yeah, she got a lot of jobs, but she does excellent for us. I would be crippled without her. We would be crippled without her.
Yes, sir.
So, so much an administrative assistant, not in the preparation or doing the clerical work, but actually someone that can do those things that we would do as representing us, going to actually talk to property owners and if there's negotiations to begin. But that would require then that we have somebody that has a really working knowledge of
Some
urban
education.
renewal. Yeah, and so, yeah, you know, because there's a lot of stuff out there that you can't go out and do, make commitments for things that can't happen. So, you know, it's a consideration. I still yet have not been able to wrap my arms around it in the past 3 years. That's why I sit 3 years later doing what I'm doing.
So that brings us back to, we don't have much of a budget, and then are we looking for somebody full-time, and then where are we going to find this particular person that's going to have even a general knowledge of what TURA can and can't do and can get involved in? Where are we?
Well, it's not possible for what we can afford.
Right.
And then that's probably the long and short of it. The reality of it is for what we would think we needed an executive director, secretary,
Right.
as far as money is concerned by funds, and I mean,
So
revenue is a big concern.
So that brings us back to, we're really just looking for a secretary that can give us a helping hand.
Yes and no. Yes and no. I mean, it's one where we define the tasks and those things that we would want that person to do.
Right.
And it would be, you know, for my part, it's probably beyond just doing the clerical work, because with the assistance of the city, that, you know, get the assistance from Brittany, and as, you know, as long as she's able to do so, yeah, I mean, it you know, that's a lifesaver in my life vest as far as that's concerned, and I can bring to you what I do, you know, in
Well, she helped me
preparation.
out, just with us going up there on that.
So, yeah, it's one to think about a solution today, no, but it's something that we need to work on a solution. And again, as Commissioner Howlett mentioned, we're coming up on budget, and I gave you more information on that as well, and you'll see that. So, let me go to Commissioner Lopez.
Okay. Great point. Great add on to the list today. Glad Mr. Ruger's here. So, you hear our woes, our financial woes.
Yes.
Now that you're in your first budget season with the city of Trinidad, we asked the mayor, Rico, this when he appeared before us, and said the same concern was addressed to him, funding.
Yeah.
So possibly in your meetings with your department heads moving forward, if you could possibly see if there is some funding mechanism at the city level to assist urban renewal, so we as a board don't have to have the boots on the ground and be inappropriate acting, even though, you know, you may have some time to do so, and maybe I might have some time to do so, but doesn't mean we get a disgruntled board member representing us in an awful way out there. We need that director to be the person who's doing that type of interaction with the businesses and moving the future along. So, and most of us don't have the time anyway. You know, I'm so many different areas. So, if that could be occurred, I'd greatly appreciate it. And you can reach with Mr. Grego, our chair, and see what we can do moving forward. But it'd be greatly appreciated if we could have even a part-time position filled in this capacity to help us do our job better. Sam.
Thank you. I will look into that.
Can we afford? I guess that's the next question. Can we even afford a part-time? Where are we at? So we got the cart in front of the horse if we can't afford it, and we're asking for it.
Well, obviously,
I want their money.
okay. Let me go around the podium first, and then, or the dining, and I'll answer your question.
I was just gonna suggest the same thing, could we, or even find somebody, you know, as needed, you know.
Okay. Mr. Bailey.
I feel the same way, you know, if we could appeal to the city to have somebody that could step in, and Commissioner Cochran just brought up, you know, we don't want the cart in front of the horse, but maybe, with this, it might pull it back where it needs to be. But, you know, we do need some help, and just a part-time assistant might be affordable that way. That's what I was thinking.
Okay. All right, anybody else? Because I do have some explanations that I can give you. Fortunately, was it last Friday? City Manager Steve Ruger and I did he did inform me a few minutes, and we had a little bit of discussion, and I gave him some information from the Urban Renewal Authority, which was included in everybody's packets not long ago, which was the copy of the cooperation agreement that between the Trinidad Urban Renewal and the City of Trinidad. And in that, it's been revised a couple times from the original that was put together, but what it does essentially is says, the city does provide to us under that cooperation agreement, use of city services, city personnel, the use of this facility to conduct our meetings. So that cooperation agreement has been in place, and dating back from 2015 to 2019, we originally started with our executive director, which was appointed, was TURA Marshall, who was the head of developmental services. I believe, I don't remember, she wore a lot of hats. She was very instrumental in actually getting the reformation of the Urban Renewal Authority. As her plate got more full as time went on, then Jonathan Tater, who was then the ED director, economic development director, was put in the position, and we appointed him as ED until he left the city and went to another job somewhere else in the country. At that point, we appointed city manager Greg Sund was available, and he took on the dubious position of being the executive director for the Trinidad Urban Renewal. So he acted in that capacity through that time, again with the assistance of Brittany. And so Brittany has a lot of history, knows a lot of what we've done. But with the departure of city manager Greg Sund in September of 2019, that left nobody to fill the position. So I, as the chairman, have been handling all the administrative duties and those kinds of things as time gone on. To say the least, it's been an education. Honestly, for anything else, it has made me keenly aware of a lot of different things. And so, for anything else, it's become an education up from where I was just sitting as a chair that I've been sitting since 2015. So it's pretty good. It's pretty wild, but that's where how it's evolved over these past years, since really 2016 till now. That's how it's gone. So an administrative assistance, we just got to weigh how we're going to do that, because affordability, again, with the news that we just got, and we took, our budget is pretty firm. It's not like we don't have money in there, but we're not going to be able to replenish. So as we go, we're going to be replenishing, and some of our just our yearly expenses to operate, which would include printing, legal, consultant, all those kinds of things, could have an impact on what it is that we're going to get. I'm forecasting 26,000 to the end of 2022. Now she said, that could be impacted by quite possibly another 25%. That could take us down in the amount of $20,000 per year. And so, yeah, we have to hone up what it is that we do and how we do it. Affordability, minimal if at all. We just have basic expenses that we got to contend with. So we as a board, me as the chairman, we just need to fine tune how we put all that together, and we will make it work.
If I may, then that's why we'll go into the budget and looking at this, just an item to look at. And I think the dollars will make this things will become self-evident based on the dollars, right?
Right. And by the way, the budget is the last item we will actively touch on tonight. All right, then item number 4, contact with property owners. In the information I recently provided, I gave everybody a copy of a letter that was sent out, and this was sent just down to the property owners in the core commercial district, as we would know it. And I provided to you some more of that information tonight as well. I provided to you because Commissioner Howlett, he did bring that up in his notes of what we should speak about. So with that, it looks like this Commissioner Cochran. That's it's the one that was sent out in 2016. And what I did with that is I provided to you a specimen of a letter I authored from there, which that one, it said a lot, but it didn't, there were some things in there that if you read it, could scare off a property owner that wouldn't want to have any interest in it. And it does tell you in there that it does require all these, within that 3-month period, if you wanted to discuss it, that you would be needing to provide all kinds of information up to including a plan, a project plan, and all the other things with it. And if you look at that, It would be the third paragraph in there, if you read that. I mean, it says, you know, we want to talk to you, but here's what you got to come with. And I don't think we would want to do that. If we sent out an exploratory letter to a number of property owners that we're going to identify, because I think with Commissioner Waddle's comments tonight, okay, we need to identify those areas which are in the core commercial district that we would want to go out and try to stimulate some conversation with property owners and private investors to be able to make something happen, or we can collaborate, or we can see where we come in, however limited that might be. But I provided, like I say, I created a letter which I think is more generalized. It's just trying to get people with an interest to say, what are you doing and what can we do? It's on the second page of it all. And so that's my idea with it. It's open for change, it's open for other ideas. But with that, that's what I came about, because that particular letter, it says a lot, but then it says some things in there that could scare off someone and say, hey, I can't go through all that to see whatever I want to get. Commissioner Howell.
So the reason for this is in the packet that you had originally given us when we first sat.
Yeah.
I saw this letter and I thought it was a good thing. Now, this was timely and written. The copywriting on this was done with regards to that audience and the board's composition at that time, okay? We're different time, lots of different things have happened. So certainly the copy would change with regards to this, to the audience and where we find ourselves. But I look at this letter being an introduction and an invitation. An introduction is that TURA is here. You may not have heard us doing things in a little while, but we're here, and not the, hey, we're with the government, we're here to help letter. But this is an invitation, and if you are interested, because if we have limited budget, if we were a business and we're a startup, and we have limited budget, limited scope, and limited reach, limited time, we actually do something that actually helps filter people out. And have somebody raise their hand and say, you know what, I am interested. And other people say, please stay away from my property. I'm not interested in you at all. So to me, the copy on this letter would go out to everyone. 1,500, if that's the number. 1551?
1543.
1543. It would go out to 1543 because I don't believe we are capable of filtering who's interested and who's not interested. But it doesn't matter if they're not interested. They still, by virtue of the letter written correctly during our time and needs, it certainly would introduce them to TURA. And what we're trying to do in order to address blight in the whole area, increase safety, economic and stability, and an opportunity to grow in the community. So for me, this letter was important to go out to all 1543, be written in a way that actually would speak to them and where the city finds themselves right now, be an introduction, first paragraph, introduction, here's what we are, here's what we mean to do, invitation, you're in our district. Even if a map was there, you're in a district, and if you are interested in these bullet items of things we can do, please show up during item whatever of our meeting, which is public comment, petitions for communication, item 5 on our every week main meeting. So that was what it was, okay? Or when we invite the public to talk to us, let's invite them to come speak to us specifically to their concerns and what we can do for them.
Mr. Cochran.
Well, I agree. This would scare me off. It's a little rough, but given the time that it went out, it was probably perfect.
Right,
and fit exactly what needed to happen.
And again, I point out that I with what we said, if you flip the page.
I did.
Okay.
Yeah, and you highlighted. Right. Well, I agree. It written in a format that was more inviting to business owners, and I'm sure that you have some ideas of how that should be written.
I think this board could craft a great document.
Right. Right. Yeah, I think if we rewrite it and send it out to I didn't know there was 1,543 of them.
Right. Yeah, we'll discuss that.
Send it out to everybody we can and see do the process of elimination of see if we've got anybody knocking at the door, and then move forward from there. Because right now we don't have anybody knocking at the door. So that would kind of take over the administrative assistant's partial job. if that letter went out to everybody. They'd kind of be doing that job for us by giving us a call.
Boots on the ground.
Yeah. So I'm all for rewriting it, getting it out there. Let's get the information out there, see what we turn up.
Commissioner Lopez.
This is the old one?
That's the old.
This is the one you just
That's the
recently
one,
drafted?
that's the one that I put, which I think is generalized and is to arouse interest, not to then say, and that's open to edit by anyone. I mean, that's my ideas. I need an idea what you would like to say in there.
Yeah, I like the idea of reaching out to the property owners, and I would request that this board digest your letter that you did here and add to it if they feel to do so. And I think that the next meeting we can move forward with it. So thank you for your time doing that.
Commissioner Leone.
I like it. I think we need to be able, when people come, to be able to tell them what we can do. That's what we need to do, is tell them what we can do.
Yes, ma'am.
I marveled that a lot of I know some of the business owners and people have some buildings downtown, never heard of anybody doing stuff to their buildings through any type of urban development or anything like that, so the renewal. And I think it should be more welcoming, and I think it was because of that letter, it went out there, people, why would we do this,
Yeah.
Instead, like you're saying, hey, let's get things going, let's do some things. And I personally think that it's a great concept to just be more inviting and open it up, like you're saying, and let people know that we're trying to help them. And yet not be from the government and feel like, we're here to help, because I sure don't feel that way, but at the same time, if we're in a position where we can help somebody, like I said, I didn't even hear anybody ever say this, in all the years I've been here, I didn't even know we had a board really to speak of. And yet there's nothing against that, it's just me not being connected, as far as that's concerned. But I would like to see people enthused about what we're doing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think this could generate that enthusiasm. Even if they say no, they'll say, hey, make it think of something later on. And that's kind of the reason why I'm here, is to, hey, let's make this work for Trinidad. And not that it didn't work, and it's not working. I just think that, does that make sense to everybody? That's what I feel. So I like the letter concept. I like reaching out. Let them know that we're here. We're wanting to help you. We're moving enthusiasm with this.
Well, aren't we, maybe I'm confusing this, but aren't we available to do alternative financing? I mean, isn't that what the urban renewal is about? Is a developer says, I'd like to develop this piece of property, or I'd like to do this in your city, and then urban renewal comes in and says, well, we have these different ways of helping you get the financing to make that happen.
Well,
isn't that our main kind of, I know we want TIF, but as our selling point, wouldn't that?
Some of the tools in the tool.
That would be like, hey, this is what we can offer to you as a. I'm reading through this and this is great, because this is what I understood when we went to the conference. But it doesn't. It's not selling me like, well, I really need to go talk to these guys because they might be able to really do something for you. Whereas we actually can provide alternative ways of financing development and construction and things like that.
that is true. That's a possibility. But the purpose of a URA, an urban renewal authority, is to attract private investment. That private investment comes to the table with the cliche skin in the game.
So.
Okay, the urban renewal, the intent of the urban renewal is if the developer says, I need this much, but I can only come up with this much. There's a gap. That's where then the urban renewal is instrumental in assisting to find a way to close that gap. That's what they're about.
And there's other, like what we heard was, there's other ways also. So the developer came in with 30% of the skin in the game, and then there was urban renewal, the city, and several other ways to complete the package, so that he was actually able to do the development.
Well, but one of the things, and if you read the Colorado revised statutes, and you see what it is, when you're looking to get private development, you have to go in there and you have to have reasonable assurances that it's a qualified, experienced developer that can take it from wherever it is to finish it off.
Right.
And, the fact that that developer has to come with a major portion of it all in place.
Right.
It's not gonna say, I've got 25% in a big dream, how you guys gonna bring me 75%?
Right. I've never done this before.
Yeah, and so those are the things that you have to do is, they're out there, but you
Right.
have to, when you go into them, and that's one of the things that it's my turn to speak. One of the things that if everybody's had an opportunity to look at that 1,543 list, okay, a lot of those, you're looking at certain owners, and I'm not gonna mention any names.
Multiple properties. with one owner.
Multiple properties with one owner. Okay, so I don't think you'd wanna send out that number, So, I mean, if you condense it, it's gonna come back. There's that many properties on parcels in the TURA map. And if you look at the assessor side, it tells you the number of the map that it fits within. But if you look at that, and like I say, I'm looking at a couple right now, and I'm not gonna go into any names of them, but you look at them, I mean, it's a substantial number
Right.
that this one particular company owns.
Good for us.
Well, you don't want to
It
reduces that.
Right.
Yeah.
Then you only need to get one left.
But as we go out on the exploratory part, my suggestion is, because if you send out, I don't know, maybe that results in 1,150, whatever the case may be. That's a blast that maybe if we start getting responses, is it humanly possible?
All right.
I can tell you, because
Too much.
my name is at the bottom of that letter, it's gonna be hard for me to take, I mean, trying to get those.
responses.
My idea is, okay, we're gonna do the exploratory letter, the invitation, to get people's attention. You're going to take that letter and you're going to look at, the beginning point is going to be the core commercial district, because there are properties in the core commercial district that need attention and have needed attention. They were there before the development that we saw post 2014, 15, 16, and that's what,
So
there are
should
some
we
that are there.
focus on maybe, instead of shotgun, maybe focus?
That's my idea, is go take that list and look at them, or go identify. I mean, you could do a walking tour of the town and identify buildings that say probably the most visible, need attention.
Right.
That would be the ones that we put on a list, a short list of maybe 25.
Right.
So that was what my question was, are some of these, rather than 1,543, are some of these already categorized so we could do these in phases and waves? So the first one may be 200 letters, because here's the thing.
Well, that's our city, man.
I don't believe you can write a letter. I do copywriting for a living. I don't believe you can write a letter for 1,543 different business owners or property owners.
And
So if we can break this down into a category of core business district people, that letter would sound different, resonate differently to those people than it would be somebody that's outside the other area, or somebody that just has land, or somebody that has maybe some orphaned property. So I'm 100% with you, but I think you still try and get it to 1,543. You just phase those in based on the categories and who's receiving that letter or best story to them. Does that make sense?
And that's really where I'm at. It's
Very good. I'm with you.
Identify a certain block.
Because response might be way too much.
Right.
Yeah.
And so
I don't think you'll have that.
Well, I don't believe so either, but if you
It could
look
be.
at those that, say, okay, those are in most need. I mean, you could, again, a walking tour beginning from one side of Main Street down to the other side, and then down Commercial, and you'll be able to identify it. And, anything, and then from there, the outcropping from there, we could do it. But if we're gonna just shotgun for a great number of those, if there were just responses, say, what are you talking about? And you got 50 or 75 of those in a week, it would be virtually impossible for me to respond to 50 or 75 of those in a week.
And if I may add to that, if we aren't careful with this in a blast to all of these groups and we miss a response, Mr. Grego does not see the email, or it goes to spam or
And
something.
then we're worthless.
Yeah,
Which of that person?
So
We're
I
gonna be
agree
sending
100% what
these-
you're saying is, let's prioritize, say, a section of the community, or like you were saying, send out so many first, do it in waves.
All this stuff is done in marketing all the time.
Yes.
And this is a marketing campaign,
We
basically.
just don't have a marketing agency to manage it.
What I'm saying though is all these things are done that time, and so you decide even if you were to get 1,543, you may not send out 1,543 based on the reality that you don't have the ability to follow up,
It's logistics.
right? So exactly. So you start with what we have. If you can boil that down, you do that. And then once you have those letters or those things, then you go to the next phase of that would be, okay, now how do we mail these out? Do we do it in 250 blocks where Monday this goes out and then 2 weeks later this goes out? You can manage all those things the same way you would any marketing campaign for any business.
And that makes sense, and that's prudent. That's the way I would.
Yeah, well, maybe that's what I'm looking at from how we will administer it, because again,
Very good.
you can get them out there and, but it gotta be in phases. It's gotta be in a phase that's manageable,
Yeah.
because then it's okay. All right, how soon do we get them into the door? Because once we say, okay, we want to talk. Now we got to be able to get them to us to start that talking, because that talking is going to happen as a body, not as one of us individually. It's going to have to be, because there's a lot of questions and a lot of information to be disseminated. So that's one where it's okay. How efficiently do you do it and not kill the idea that they said, hey, I can't wait that long. I don't even want the idea in my head. So it's one where it's, okay, yeah, we create the letter that needs to go out, target a certain area first, see what that response is, and then see where we go next. And again, as you said, we do it in a phased, but in a way that's manageably phased, because it could become one where all of a sudden it's not a bad idea. I know Commissioner Howlett, I know Commissioner Cockrum, and it's a good idea. So all of a sudden, it all comes together, and maybe it becomes, to the point where we don't do it right, and then the black eye happens all over again. From not doing it right to from the unknown.
Agree. I think it's like everything else managed.
Yeah.
Prudently.
Right.
So that being said, that means that suggestions for the letter, however you will I see it, and an idea of
Which ones?
what properties you want to do. I don't think you want to send one out to a property that's been developed and is one of the spectacular ones in the city now.
Yeah, I would say letters rather than letter. You bet.
Yes. Okay.
Do we have a list of the 1453? Is that spreadsheet we had that you?
Yeah.
Okay, yes,
That's the one that was sent over
Thank you,
there,
sir.
because if you read, there's one there that you look, and it's multiple pages of lots that are owned out east.
Very good.
And so, okay. It's interesting reading material if you got nothing else to do. 1,543 lines to look at.
Yeah, we have nothing better to do.
It's budget time, and I'm on 6 boards that we got to oversee budget for that.
Well, if you found that hour, please, you're looking at it. All right, I'm moving on to item number 4, item number 5, attorney legal services. Again, we talked about that because, again, at these gatherings and these seminars and these training sessions you go to, there always is an attorney present that gives a lot of information. And one of the things that I do want to point out that the revitalization for urban renewal in Trinidad, Colorado, and ultimately Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority was one at the prompting of, and one of the, not the prompting of, but he actually was encouraging and assisted in the, did all the legal work for the formation of the reformation of the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority by the name of Malcolm Murray. Malcolm Murray was the attorney that was, he gave the history. It was, he was through Trinidad Law. He saw Trinidad, and by reading one of the local newspapers, he was pretty interested, and so he came to he was part of that all that went on. So as we consider, it's not that we haven't had a dedicated, it's not dedicated, but some of an urban renewal specialist that knows Trinidad. We have worked with someone in the past. So Commissioner Hollett, I'll begin with you.
So again, this was when I proposed that list, and then Chairman Griego and I had a chance to sit down. These were picked out based of timeliness, and then stacked in kind of a stack of what you could do. So if you look at these things, the administrative assistant, the contacting property owners, and the legal advisor are all intertwined. That's a chain, okay? if we need an executive director and somebody that actually knows TURA, everybody else in the state of Colorado needs an executive director for their urban renewal. Everybody needs a city manager. Our dollars are going to actually lead us whether we can get that person or not. So this was a matter of, if we do have a need for somebody to help in an administrative way, not boots on the ground, not representing the board to property owners, then that's where the executive assistant came in. To find out who wants to work with us, that's where the letter to folks out. And an executive assistant would actually be that person that would be actually filtering the inquiries coming in. And then the worst thing in business is to not know what you don't know and think you do, and making decisions on what you don't know. And so there are many times what we have with regards to this attorney is, once we find out what our abilities are with the 1,543, with the realities of our TIF, with the budget going down and the monies we do have, and the forthcoming assistance from the great city of Trinidad to help with regards to that. Once we have those in place, it would be good to identify, because the assessor asked a very important question, one of the questions I asked early on, I keep asking, what's the project we're doing? What is it we're doing that's really that thing we're going to bring out into the public? I think a competent urban renewal attorney will be able to look at our stuff and be able to look at where TIF may come from. Where can we get dollars from? Where's the best place for us to utilize the dollars we do have? The ability to go into the private market and bring investors in. Again, risk averse, make sure that we safeguard all the funds we possibly have, place the risk on somebody else in the marketplace, because that's why they're in the marketplace and we're not. But we can actually get with an attorney there and say, what is the best way in the toolbox that we have to go out there and in certain areas fulfill our mission, with the idea that we're limited with regards to where we can get TIF. Mm-hmm. We're limited with what TIF will be going forward. And that's not I agree with the assessor, that's not going to be a one-year deal. Once politicians actually start getting dollars, it's hard to ever stop that faucet from going. So that was where that is. We met when we went to, and I appreciate the board's sending us to that conference. It was very, very educational for me and several others. I think we met some folks there that are doing things differently in where they are, that I think we can model success of other areas and bring those successes that other areas are in. Throw that over the template we have of where we can actually map and do some work. Map that to our dollars and our abilities, and then actually come up with a project. So when somebody does ask us, if the city asks us, if the city manager asks us, what exactly do you guys need help with? Where do you need this help? Where are the projects? Give us the 2 or the 3 that you're working on. We're going to be able to do that, but we can do that with legal counsel. So that's where that was. Thank you.
Commissioner Cochran.
Well, I agree, but except that I don't think we can afford an attorney to take care of it.
It's as needed.
Not retainer, as needed.
As
Sorry.
needed.
Yes, sir.
So, and you mentioned the name, and then we had met that gentleman.
Paul Benedetti.
Up there in Denver, and he had actually offered some assistance when we talked to him. And I don't know this other gentleman, so I do know that particular gentleman had some serious background in urban renewal and was able to facilitate.
Well, he's like you saw, he's a big sponsor of DCI. You look on these sponsor sheets, and Paul is, and he's very familiar with Trinidad. We has relatives here and everything, so yeah, very familiar.
He actually came to talk to us when we were on break and offered services there. Kind of.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's.
He didn't really offer his services, but he made.
He offered that he would give it.
He offered that he could make some money.
Yeah.
Yes.
I agree, but I really don't know how we're going to go about this.
Yeah.
We
will. There will be situations where we're going to need that, and it may be for as subject we're talking about tonight. But yeah, there's one beyond what we need to do. And I only mentioned Malcolm Ray because he was instrumental in, and I don't know how much he's practicing at this point. bringing it out.
Like everything, you interview folks, right?
Well, back to what you were saying, you have all of those three categories kind of are all in one, and an assistant might be able to field some of these things. So maybe we find someone that can be an assistant, but maybe not as educated as, or require the same salary, but can field conversations with the attorney, and then bring it back to the board. I don't know, I'm trying to find an easier way to do it without paying out a lot of money, because we don't have any.
I understand.
Yeah.
Mr. Lopez?
Yes, we need an attorney. Do we have the funding?
No.
Son of an attorney.
My dad would have been good at this. We do have the $352,000 in our cash balance if necessary, but what I would suggest that we do not make any decisions without consulting an attorney on those legal questions.
Absolutely.
For a simple reminder, I deal with attorneys all day long with all the multiple boards I sit on. They have malpractice and insurance to cover their mistakes. I don't. So
Right.
we need somebody in the field, and I'm good for it.
Mr. Young?
I agree, and I think as needed would be perfect.
Mr. Kelly?
I also agree with that. Just, I think this is prudent thing to do. I think it's, we gotta have somebody, but at the same time, not, again, the affordability. So, they don't have to be on a retainer type of thing, and they, as needed, I think will work. But again, we're strapped here, so.
Well, and it would be over time. Oh, I'm sorry, did I cut you off?
No, I'm good. Yeah, thanks.
Yeah, and it would be as for services rendered. It wouldn't be on a retainer. And sometimes, the services rendered take a lot of work, so that would be there. But that's one of the things. Yeah, there are major moves that we wouldn't make without any kind of advice from attorney, whether it be the local legal counsel for the city of Trinidad or a specialist in urban renewal.
An assistant could also field questions from the board to the attorney, so.
Well, probably we would be dealing direct. And that one, it probably wouldn't be an intermediary in those conditions. It would be direct contact by us. But, it would be one where there could be other things done. Yeah, sure. Okay. Well, for those three things, I guess to go into one, give a little more thought to how we might want to, based upon what we feel we can afford and put together for administration, how we want to formulate a letter. I put out a sample of my thoughts, but you can edit, add to, create a whole brand new one. It's, we need to get that here, and then consider, how what we want to do, feelers for possibilities of knowing that we need somebody going in the future, have that person, as far as the legal counsel, ready to take us on.
And may I ask a question?
Yes.
And I know I'm jumping ahead, but would we put something like that in our budget?
Yes. Anything else?
Well, with all the budgets that I review and go over, just a reminder to this board, if we come to the point where we hire and say we have some assistants coming in, I'd like to remind the board that we would need to have a fund balance of 3 months operating costs to cover the expenditure of that said employee. So I'm cautious as to how we do it moving forward, but always keep in the back of your mind, you gotta have those reserve funds, rainy day funds for, you just never know if the funding mechanism stops or gets worse.
Commissioner Lopez, I'd actually be a little more conservative.
Well, what we do at the county is about 6 months.
28% reduction.
So, thank you.
Okay, moving forward, item number 6, checking account, signature authorizations. I provided advance notes on that. The Trinidad Urban Renewal maintains 2 checking accounts at In-Bank of Trinidad. We have the general business account, our operating account, and the project account. Checks issued by TURA require 2 signatures. The authorized signatures currently include myself, Chairman Edward Grego, the Vice Chairman, which was Carol Bolton, and the City of Trinidad Finance Director, Cheryl Navarrete. The departure of Carol Bolton is necessary to change the authorized signature to include the current Vice Chairman, Luis A. Lopez II. In order to make the change, in-bank requires, and I was in contact with a service representative at the bank a week ago or a little more than that, and she indicated that in order to make that change, they do need some board minutes that reflect the authorization of that change. So I did include in the packet tonight a document which I if approved, would sign off, send it to them so we can get that change made. It would require that Commissioner Lopez be in contact with them and make the signature changes. So that's on the regular meeting for this evening as well. Any questions on it?
No, sir.
Anybody questions? All right. Item number 7, the Americana Road Project pay estimate number 7. And as of late this afternoon, probably 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, all the required signatures except for those for the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority have been affixed to the pay estimate number 7. That is in the packet for approval this evening. Any questions on it? Everybody had a chance to review that?
May I ask,
Yes.
on the American Road Project, this would be our last pay estimate?
No. We will go.
We don't, other than the retained?
Right. Well, we will go because the project that I don't have it right. I do have it. This, if you go by what the entire project called for without any cost overruns, it is currently in the range of in excess of $1 million.
Right.
The entire project estimate was 2.5, just north of $2.5 million, and that's without any overruns that could happen between the project start and the project end. So this will be continuing until the project is completed for Americana Road, which
Are
are
we
the public
seeing
improvements.
anything that's showing what they're doing it? I haven't seen anything in the documentation that shows, well, we just completed this portion of this and.
It is. Everything that you see
Yeah.
in this pay request that is sent for everybody for signature
Okay, that's
has been verified by
has.
project manager Jenny Jackson for the city of Trinidad, as well as the business improvement representatives of the business improvement district, who are the ones that are in main control of the project.
I was just curious, because I've been down there several times and I just haven't seen a whole lot of movement.
A majority of it, well, we'll go around the table because those questions you've asked. So I'll start with you, Commissioner Howard.
Yeah, I feel unqualified in some regards to comment much on this for a lot of reasons. So I think you just answered the question. There are other people, either with the city or with the project, that are looking at this and making sure that this adds to that, and they're in the scope of work and those things. So our role here, and so didn't feel qualified, we need somebody else to look at that. So our role then is what with regards to this?
Our role is based upon the development agreement. Excuse me for not putting it in your hands. I will get that scanned and sent to you as well. The development agreement calls for the public improvement projects to be undertaken by the district, and the city was instrumental in going out and getting the bids. Now, the Urban Renewal Authority is basically the trustee of
We're
the
a pass-through.
That's what it, if you want to call it that. So what it is the pay request is sent by the contractor initially to the city of Trinidad, for which the project manager for the city of Trinidad, Jenny Jackson, reviews it, goes to the site, determines what is completed and what is not. She has, in fact, made amendments to the pay request, which the contractor has agreed. With those changes to it, it goes in to the project manager, which is Carl Gabrielson. It goes to the city manager's office. It goes to the business improvement district, which is the sign off by Tim Lamb, who is the general counsel.
So there's a number of eyes.
Yes, yeah, so it's been reviewed. So when it comes to us, it's being said, basically, that has been done. That is the cost to date, here as it is for final presentation. We are a part of the equation of all this, but it's based upon what was outlined in the development agreement between La Puerta and City of Trinidad and Trinidad Renewal.
I was just curious, because I didn't know anything about it, and I'm like, wow, we're writing a lot of money.
Well, a majority of those are related to all the underground stuff that we've done. We
Right.
saw with the water line.
I saw that.
Yeah, there was a massive sewer line
Yep.
project that was done, so that is the basics that are going on. Ultimately, we'll see the road
The finish.
installed.
So great answer to the question, because somebody upstream from us is saying yes or no to this
Yes.
before it gets to us.
When it goes to us, it's already passed the
Yes, sir.
litmus
Thank you.
test in other places.
That's it.
I have no questions.
Commissioner Goodwin?
We are the caregivers of the money.
Okay.
I'm still new at that, so I'm still feeling my way
I
through. so-
explained that, I did explain that to Jerry, that if all these people sign off on it, they're the ones responsible for it.
Well, yeah, basically, the owner, which is represented there is responsible for it. That's what it's spelled out in the agreement. Okay. Any more questions on that? So that is for an action item this evening. Item number 8, the 2023 budget. I provided everybody with information related to that. We are at budget time of the year. I believe that the handout that I provided tonight does say Gmail on it, and this actually was a copy of an email I received today from the Department of Local Affairs, which is a general advisement to all entities that are required to file budgets. And we have to have a preliminary budget, or proposed draft budget, ready to go for our review in October the 15th. From there, we will set a public hearing that will then be formally adopted, and then I will take the steps of filing, making the annual filing due to Department of Local Affairs by their required date. So with that said, and that's their explanation, and that's what happens. I provided a copy of the 2022 budget. We will be working somewhat with that. Again, it was prepared last year using historical information, which this year comes out to prove that historical information can back and be as much of an enemy as it can be a friend. So I will ask that everybody review it. We need to put something together so that we can begin compiling something. I need your input between now and the first month of October, so that we can have something that we can have a preliminary for the draft of our meeting of October the 13th. So I will start crunching some numbers, send them out for people to sort of review, sort of give me an idea of what you think we need to do.
It's a projected,
This was this year.
This was the 2000, this is what we operate off of now, right now. This is the 22 budget. We have to reset these numbers for 2023. And one of those things you'll be looking at is TIF revenue, which is not a reality of 40,000. That's going to change out. We do, I think a question was earlier, Commissioner Leone, about the allocation of funds in the 2022 budget. Legal, travel, and training was in there for is in there for $15,000. Consulting and administrative fees comprise $25,000, and that's where we get to our final bottom line. That bottom line, I don't know if we're going to realize that exactly or not as far as our revenue. I'm sure we're going to not make the expenses. I mean, now that we're well aware of where we're at. We've never been there, we've always been well under, but again, we know where we're at on expenses and how we will formulate going forward. So again, I ask everybody to review what's there. We need to talk, however, somebody wants to call me, send me your comments, but we need to, Commissioner Howard.
Yeah, will we have a work session or something where we will actually discuss what makes up the budget? How might we proceed with a number for a executive assistant, if that's even going to be possible there? What would we look at maybe as a possible set aside? Again, having a conservative budget with protected money, vault money, right?
Restricted funds.
Yeah, exactly. Will we be having that kind of session, or are you saying submit to you our thoughts?
Give me some ideas so I can put some numbers out there for everybody to consider. I mean, I have,
And then we would, then we'd have the conversation about that. Perfect.
we'll have that conversation in
I'm with you.
on
Yes, sir.
October 13th, and we can adjust it from there and then get it, I mean, it'll go to public hearing.
Great process. Yes, sir.
November, December, it's required by law.
December 18th, I think, is, our county budget is by law. I'm not sure if Durham.
The non-levying governments, we have to have it adopted by December 31st, so we have the time on it. Okay? But yeah, I need comments, tell me where you're at on it. I will be putting something together and baffling myself as well, trying to figure that one out, but that is the information.
to pay Paul.
Yeah, well, I don't think it'll go that way. I mean, reading out that is just that we know where our constraints are, and we will abide and live by them. It is what it is. Anything else on it? Item number 9. Items for future work session discussion. Okay. If not, we may have to take up where we left off on some of these tonight. But I think our concentration for the immediate future is going to be our budgeting process and how we get how we take it into 2023. All right then.
Mr. Chair? Okay.
Yes.
Hijack the last segment of your work session. I actually have to go. I have a commitment, but
Thank you so much for
I'm
being
so glad
here.
I got to sit here and listen to your discussion. So, Commissioner Lopez, to your question earlier, I've never worked directly with an external board for urban renewal, but when I was clerk for City of Aurora, I was clerk for the Urban Renewal Authority there.
Okay.
And worked directly with their executive director, Andrea Elmenick. I know her very well. I also know the attorney very well. She's one of my best friends who is over Aurora's Urban Renewal Authority. So I have some pretty good connections, and we in the local government business really like to share resources and share information. So certainly, in the meantime, till you decide what to do with legal counsel and staff, I'm going to look into ways the city can be more supportive to you all in staff resources, but also send any questions my way. And I have some really good connections where I can
You're in for it now.
I know.
What's your email address?
Yeah, work through the chair, and he and I will, let's plan to meet regularly, Chair, and we can make sure your questions are getting answered, and we'll give you whatever resources we can. So it was really nice to meet you all.
Very
And
well.
I hope you have a good
Appreciate
regular
you being
meeting. And I will try to
Thank
pop
you.
into your meetings as much as I can.
Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank
You're
you.
welcome. Take care.
All right then. It is 7:07 PM. This is the regular meeting of the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. Item number 1 is a roll call.
Bigley,
Yeah, yes.
Here.
Cochran,
Here.
Howard,
Here.
Leone,
Here,
Lopez.
Here. Grego.
I'm sorry, Grego.
Here. Item number 2, approval of the minutes from the August the 11th. Advanced copies of the minutes were sent to everyone for review.
I found no issues, so make a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll second that motion.
There is a motion by Commissioner Howlett to approve with a second by Commissioner Leone. Are there any further questions? Any comments? Roll call.
Bigley,
Yes.
Cochran,
Yes.
Howard,
Yes.
Leone,
Yes,
Lopez,
Yes.
Grego.
Yes. Item number 3, acceptance of the financial report. Again, everybody was provided an advance copy of the financial report for the date ending August 31st, 2022. Is there a motion? Motion to approve?
Motion to approve financial report.
A second.
Motion by Commissioner Lopez for the approval with a second by Commissioner Howlett, right?
Yes.
Questions, comments? I'll just bring forward that the revenue we derived from TIF from the end of the last day of business of July the 30th, 31st, whatever, to the end of August 2022, we picked up $901 for year-to-date, $22,402. For the questions, comments, roll call?
Bailey?
Yes.
Cochran?
Yes.
Howlett?
Yes.
Leone?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Grego?
Yes. Item number 4, consideration of bills. Item number 1 on the list this evening is the payment to Purgatory Valley Construction related to the Americana Road project at amount $231,970.87. Is there a motion?
Based on the folks who actually signed off on that, I make a motion to approve that bill.
Second? Is there a second?
Second motion.
There's a motion by Commissioner Howlett with a second by Commissioner Lopez for the approval of the pay request number 7 to Purgatory Valley Construction to $231,970.87. Roll call.
Bailey?
Yes.
Cochran?
Yes.
Howlett?
Yes.
Leone?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Grego?
Yes. Item number 4B, reimbursement to the City of Trinidad for the hotel accommodations for Commissioner Jeff Cochran, $182.04. This is related to the TIF 201 training that was attended in Whitridge, Colorado. That would have been August the 9th, I believe. August the 9th. Is there a motion to approve?
Motion to approve.
Commissioner Lopez with a motion. Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Leone with a second. Any questions or comments? Roll call.
Bailey?
Yes.
Cochran?
Yes.
Howlett?
Yes.
Leone?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Grego?
Yes. Item number 4C, travel reimbursement to Commissioner Jeff Cochran for the TIF 201 training that was attended, Whitridge, Colorado, August 9th. Total $311.39. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
I second that.
Second, Commissioner Bailey. We have a motion by Commissioner Lopez to approve with a second by Commissioner Bailey. Are there any comments, questions? Roll call, please.
Bailey?
Yes.
Cochran?
Yes.
Howlett?
Yes.
Leone?
Yes.
Lopez?
Yes.
Grego?
Yes. Item number 5, petitions or communications, oral or written. I am not aware of anything written. Is there anybody in the audience or anybody on go-to meetings that would like to address the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority? We'll ask again if there's anyone that would like to address Trinidad Urban Renewal, either present or on go-to meetings. Let the record reflect that there is no one coming forward that would like to address the city of, the Trinidad Urban Renewal Authority. And one thing that I would like to mention, and I did it in my narrative, one of the things that if we do have anyone that does wish to speak, they will, if they want to address, because it's not an agenda item, we will listen, but we can't make formal responses, or because it has to be an agenda item. So, matter of procedure. So, if we do get visitors that do want, we will listen, but subsequently have to put it on an agenda for an item or discussion at a future date. Item number 6, old business. There's none of record. Item number 7, new business. Item A, consideration to change the authorized signatures on the TURA checking accounts to remove former commissioner and former vice chairperson Carol Bolton, and to add commissioner and current vice chairman Luis A. Lopez II. Is there a motion?
I make a motion to change authorized signatures for TURA, general business and projects accounts at the First National Bank to Luis A. Lopez.
In bank.
In bank. Okay. In bank, sorry.
In bank. Is there a second?
I second that.
There is a motion by Commissioner Leone with a second by Commissioner Howlett to amend and change the authorized signatures at the in-bank for both accounts of TURA, which will include current Vice Chairman Luis Lopez II. Any further questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Bagley,
Yes.
Cochran,
Yes.
Howlett,
Yes?
Leone,
Yes.
Lopez,
I'll abstain.
Grego.
Yes. Item number 8, report by Executive Director. We have no Executive Director, but at this point is why I feel you in on my activities related to urban renewal over the past 30 days. One of the things that I did recently had conversations, and I'm waiting for a response back from Cat Corral at DCI. We're looking to have a TIP training locally and possibly invite surrounding other rural URAs. So I'm waiting for word back from her, and then I'll let everybody know about that. With that said, I also did provide information to DCI with emails for each commissioner. If you want to, I don't know if you've received them or not,
I did.
but you can log in next week sometime. I don't know what day it is, but there are monthly
Wednesday.
monthly call-ins that you can sit and participate online via Zoom for urban renewal based meetings. So provided them with that. What else did I do? I did have a meeting with the city manager on the 2nd of September in anticipation of his meeting here this evening. I did have a conversation on email just recently with Mike Scholl, Ayers and Associates. We were just checking in to see if we had anything going on at Glen. We would wait to the board meeting to see what course of action we have going into the future. Finally, I do have to remind everybody, when you do make your responses, make sure you're not doing reply all. Please. With that said, that's all I have. We'll go Commissioner Howlett. Do you have anything?
Nothing.
Commissioner Cochran.
Nothing.
Commissioner Lopez.
Nothing urban renewal related, Chairman, but I am a proud father of a homecoming royalty daughter that will be at Honey High School tomorrow night and this weekend at homecoming facility. So I'm just very proud, and I'm telling the whole world.
Congratulations.
Congratulations. Commissioner
Nothing new, nothing over that.
Commissioner Bailey.
Nothing at this time.
All right. That being said.
Adjourn.
We have a motion to adjourn by Commissioner Howlett.
I'll second that.
Commissioner Lopez already had that. I'm just trying to record it as we go. All right, with that said, it is 7:18, and if there are dissenting votes, or dissenting opinion, meeting is adjourned.
Very nice.
Thank you all.
Hey, everybody, good meeting.
This conference is no longer being
Thanks,
recorded.
Brittany.
Thank you.
Thank you.
This was very audio.
I don't know what we do without